the Jergens Journal, featuring Walter Winchell. Mr. Winchell, whose famous column appears in the New York Daily Mirror, the Paris edition of the London Daily Mail, and other newspapers with more than 25 million readers, is brought to you by Jergens, the lotion for soft, smooth, romantic hands. If you could learn the beauty secrets of a famous Hollywood star, you'd jump at the chance, wouldn't you? Well, later on, we're going to let you in on a secret of lovely June Allison, one of the stars of MGM's The Three Musketeers. Of course, it's no secret that many of the stars use Jergens lotion. It's their favorite hand care, 7-to-1. If you're not using Jergens now, do try it. You'll find Jergens is so exceptionally pleasant to use. Never oily, never sticky. Your hands never feel embarrassingly greasy after using Jergens. And because of recent discoveries, today's Jergens lotion makes hands even softer, smoother than ever, gives even longer protection. So care for your hands the Hollywood way with famous Jergens lotion. And now to the editorial room of the Jergens Journal and Walter Winchell.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. North and South America and all the ships at sea. Let's go to press. London. Radio Moscow reports that Russia has formally requested the United States, Britain, and France to convene a foreign ministers' conference before September the 15th. Chicago. The number of persons already killed on the highways coast to coast during the Labor Day weekend is 99. Washington. Secretary of the Treasury Snyder is reported at Walter Reed Hospital. Hollywood. Roberta Light, the queen of the Ringling Brothers Circus, will be married to William Ballantyne, artist and news photographer in Hollywood, September the 8th. Greenwich, Connecticut. Cornelius Vanderbilt Jr. and Patricia Wallace will be married at midnight tonight. His fifth, her second. The bride is the niece of Jeanette MacDonald. New York. The marriage plans for Tyrone Power and Linda Christian have again been postponed indefinitely by the church because of his divorce from Annabella. Boston. The services for Russell Maloney of the New Yorker magazine, who died suddenly, will be held in Boston on Tuesday next. He was only 38. New York City. It's a baby girl for Georgie Price, the star, and his wife at Doctors Hospital, New York. The mother is the former Cam Marshall, the daughter of the owner of the Washington Redskins. San Antonio. M. Levin, an editor on Look magazine, and Gina Ralph were married here yesterday. She's the daughter of the mayor of San Antone. New York. Alita Rubirosa, a Barbizon model, and kin to Doris Duke, will be married next month to Robert Musil, now in London for United Press. Hollywood. The mother of moving picture star Lauren Bacall is reported on the verge of another marriage. He is believed to have flown to the coast today. He's a New York City marshal. Around the world in a minute. Trieste. Marshal Tito's divisions are being moved to the Romanian border. He will renew his claims to Trieste, but he will not attack Italy. One of Stalin's former operators in our Middle West, an American, is now leading a secret mission to Belgrade. The object, the assassination of Tito. Cairo. The Arab League is breaking up. Transjordan and Lebanon are sending out feelers for permanent peace with Israel. In spite of all previous misunderstandings, the Israeli government will stand with the West against Russia. London. Mr. Ernest Bevan is not expected to survive the full meeting of the British Empire Conference. New Zealand, Canada, and Australia have informed London that Mr. Bevan's greatest act of public service would be his resignation. London. Number 10 Downing Street believes the chances are 100-1 against any full-scale war in 1948. Mr. Winston Churchill, however, and Lord Rothermere, the British publisher, are not that optimistic. British preparation for war continues on emergency basis. The Washington Ticker. As of tonight, Democratic leaders privately give Mr. Truman only 2 states north of the Ohio. Their confidential polls also indicate that Governor Dewey is leading by at least 10 million. The campaign headquarters. This is the irony of politics. Chester Bowles, fired for urging price ceilings, which Mr. Truman now wants back, is running 50,000 ahead of the president in the Connecticut polls. Selective service. Only 1 out of each 38 draft registrants is likely to be inducted. The Pentagon. The big scotch and soda talk in Washington tonight is that Defense Secretary James Forrestal is slated for the presidency of the Texas Oil Company if the Republicans win. Mr. and Mrs. United States, this is to respectfully disagree with the President of the United States. The current spy investigation is not a red herring. Our top intelligence chiefs believe that it is a great menace, and surely their files are open to the White House. A story never made public before, but which the best newspaper people in Washington, D.C. believe is this. About a year ago, the president was on the verge of elevating a man to one of the most important international positions in the world. Our intelligence department, learning of it, rushed over to the White House at midnight and confronted the President of the United States with a report on this man. As a result, Mr. President canceled this important elevation. The person involved was recently investigated by Congress. Evidence at midnight in the White House is still evidence before Congress. The truth is that the deepest secrets of our government, shared not even by the American people, were an open book in Moscow. As far back as October the 12th, 1947, over these microphones, I revealed some of the facts sworn to under oath last Friday by James B. Carey, the Treasurer Secretary of the CIO, that the Red Fifth Column was using the very same secret weapons the Bund and the Nazis used. That is, our great Constitution, plus some of our dirtiest politicians. And that, with the help of some American labor leaders, the Russians had already captured control of these American unions. Mr. Carey testified on Friday that the United Electrical Workers Union, which he once headed, quotes, was a communist front on many questions. Ladies and gentlemen, I tried to warn you about that and similar communist-dominated unions to the limit of the law. But our federal courts have ruled that it is libel or slander to call anyone a communist. As a result, the blindfold of justice has been twisted into a gag for the press. A reporter's report to the nation, Washington. The Saturday Evening Post recently published an article by Kermit Roosevelt which treated the notorious Grand Mufti with kid gloves. This article in the Saturday Evening Post practically cleaned him up. The Mufti, it said in effect, isn't the criminal I say he is. Well, our government is now in possession of a diary kept by the late von Ribbentrop, Hitler's foreign minister. It reveals that von Ribbentrop personally paid the Grand Mufti 80,000 marks every month. This document is now in the War Crimes File, number NG5461. NG, meaning nicht gut. The Defense Department, one of the biggest boners in all American history, was recently discovered just in time. Our newest and our biggest bombers, the B-50s and the B-36s, were built, get this, were built without provision to carry atomic bombs. In short, while we were getting very tough with Russia, the United States had only 3 atomic B-29s, the very same planes that ended the war in Japan. How do you like that? Washington, in answer to the Moscow charge that the United States detained Mrs. Kasankina, another diplomatic bombshell is about to explode. The United States will retaliate by charging that FDR's personal representative, Raoul Wallenberg, was kidnapped in 1945 by Russian agents in Hungary, and he hasn't been heard of since. Attention all strike leaders. This is to remind all who strike that conditions aren't so bad in our capitalistic United States because the socialist government of Great Britain threatened to break the British transportation strike with the Royal Navy, and in communist Russia, all strikes are stopped at once by the firing squad. Think that over. Knoxville, Tennessee. A few years ago, at the bitterest point of our disagreement, I defended Senator Burton K. Wheeler's right of free speech after hoodlums in the West threw eggs at him. I disagreed with Henry Wallace as much as I disagreed with ex-Senator Wheeler, but I believe in his right and mine of free speech. It is both un-American and unnecessary to throw eggs at Henry Wallace. He has enough bad eggs around him already. And now, Mr. Ben Grauer for Jergens Lotion. I'll be back in a flash with a tip on the $23,000 mystery tune.
Here's that beauty secret of lovely June Allison, one of the stars of MGM's great Technicolor production, The Three Musketeers.
June told me on the set, the secret of being charming is remembering. Remembering to fulfill every part of a sensible beauty ritual every single day. Like using Jergens lotion regularly to keep hands smooth and lovely. She said, I've used Jergens faithfully for years.
A tip from a beauty expert, the enchanting star June Allison. And, of course, she's so right. The way to be sure of charm, to know your hands will always be smooth and soft and look excitingly feminine, is to use Jergens lotion regularly, just as the stars do. Hollywood stars use Jergens 7-to-1 over any other hand care. And Jergens is now more effective than ever, makes hands beautifully smoother, protects even longer. Still, only 10 cents to $1 plus tax. So if you care for your hands, start using Jergens lotion tonight. And now back to the editorial room of the Jergens Journal and Walter Winchell.
Newark. The trucking companies fear a new strike of drivers in New Jersey may become statewide. Statewide. 20,000 drivers are expected to join the 10,000 already out of New York. Phoenix, Arizona. One of the wildest political campaigns in years is taking place in this otherwise peaceful desert retreat. The followers of 7 different candidates for governor are tearing down signs and using all kinds of kid stuff except shooting it out. Congressman Richard Hollis, they tell me, is reported to have the edge. Dallas, Texas. The annual Neiman Marcus Fashion Exposition, one of the most elaborate in America, starts tomorrow night in Dallas. The funds will be turned over to the Damon Runyon Cancer Fund. The orders for tickets were so great, the big show will also be given on Tuesday night next. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Dallas. And now for some tips of the papers. International news. Tokyo Rose will go before a federal grand jury the day after she lands in San Francisco, September 27. Her former disc jockey, a Filipino, is now a student at Vanderbilt University. My office will supply his name. New York Mirror. They are sitting on a very big story at the Atomic Energy Commission. 2 of the Nazi scientists brought here from Germany have disappeared. They were working last on research at Princeton. New York Journal American. The big story in the current truckman strike concerns the 20 men allegedly working for Russia who are responsible for all the trouble. This Teamsters Union, ladies and gentlemen, are 9,000 strong, are decent, good Americans, as are all their leaders. The 20 I mentioned are not leaders. AP. The shortage of officers in the United States Army is desperate. The Army urges both officer and enlisted reservists to go on short or extended tours of active duty. AP, please copy. United Press. The writ of habeas corpus will be issued to save all Russians in the United States who do not wish to return to the Soviets. Our government will not issue the writ, but under the Bill of Rights, it is beyond the power of our government to stop private citizens from doing so. To the listeners of the Stop the Music program, some newspapers in New York have erroneously reported that the mystery tune is called The Arkansas Traveler. Other newspapers have guessed wrong when they reported that it was called I Am a Fisher Maiden. All I can tell you now as a clue is this. It deals with one of our biggest holidays. And that, ladies and gentlemen, winds up another Jergens Journal until next Sunday night at the very same time. Until then, and with lotions of love, I remain your New York correspondent, Walter Winchell, who can't feel sorry for Hitler's girlfriend, Axis Sally. She wails now. She wails in her cell that she's fighting for her life. Well, now she knows how the GIs felt when they were fighting for theirs. Good night.
Wishing won't make your skin softer, and dreaming won't make it smoother. But Vitone-enriched Jergens face cream will. Doctors' tests show that 8 out of 10 complexions are softer, smoother, fresher when cared for with Jergens face cream, now enriched with Vitone. A skin smoother called finer than lanolin itself. What's more, you get a complete facial in one jar of Jergens face cream. All-purpose Jergens face cream is a cleanser, a softener, a dry skin cream, and a powder base. Yet Jergens face cream enriched with precious Vitone costs no more than ordinary creams. 15 cents to $1.25 a jar plus tax. So get your jar of Jergens face cream today and start having the kind of skin women envy and men love. Next week, another edition of the Jergens Journal with Walter Winchell. And now be sure to remain tuned for Luella Parsons' 15-minute program featuring as guest Gary Cooper, which follows immediately. This is Ben Grauer speaking.